10. Shot on a Zoom call. A mother in Florida should have taken better care of her loaded weapons. The 21-year-old mom, identified by the authorities as Shamaya Lynn, was participating in a Zoom call for work. While she was on the call, she allowed her toddler to roam around the house by themselves. But as the toddler was roaming, it came across a firearm. The kid simply picked up a handgun that had bullets in it, the safety off, and was ready to rock. The gun had been left completely in the open. The shot came when Shamaya's co-workers heard a loud bang and saw her fall back and hit the ground. Everybody in the Zoom work call literally saw the toddler sneak up behind her and blow her brains out with a loaded gun. According to the Altamont Springs police, after she fell back in the chair, the others in the Zoom call saw the toddler standing there in the background, the gun clutched tightly in both hands. It was one of the participants of the Zoom meeting who called 911. When the police arrived at the house, they found Shamaya dead with a single gunshot wound to her face. The bullet went into her brain and killed her immediately. The toddler was left okay, just a bit shaken and not completely understanding what happened. 9. Brooke SKYLAR Richardson. In 2019, Brooke SKYLAR Richardson became famous for all the wrong reasons. She was convicted by a jury of abuse of a corpse. It's a pretty grisly thing to be found guilty of, especially when that corpse was your baby daughter. Richardson was only 18 years old when she gave birth in secret. She was a high school senior who didn't know what to do with a baby. It didn't help her situation that her family was utterly useless. She was so scared of revealing her pregnancy that she went the entire 9 months hiding it. Then, when she finally had the baby by herself, no hospital, no pain medication, no drugs of any kind, she buried it in the backyard. She was originally brought up on charges of aggravated murder and involuntary manslaughter, accused of deliberately killing her newborn. But according to her attorneys, Richardson believed she had a stillborn and didn't know what else to do except bury it. Her excuse was that she didn't even think the baby was alive, and so she had to give it a proper burial by herself. On the other hand, prosecutors argued against her, saying it was the perfect crime. Authorities didn't actually discover the dead baby until all that remained were bones. It was a pretty bizarre case, and Richardson was ultimately acquitted of the harsher charges of murder. This left her with a lesser charge of abusing a corpse. She didn't have to go to jail and was given 3 years of probation. During the pandemic, she even managed to get off her probation and is now a free woman. 8. The wrong baby. A young mother from Los Angeles and her husband are in the process of suing a fertility clinic for negligence and malpractice. Daphna Cardinale alleges that she gave birth to the wrong baby after the doctors at the clinic implanted a total stranger's embryo into her body. This was during a vitro fertilization treatment. She and her husband Alexander believe the California Center for Reproductive Health either knowingly lost the embryo they were supposed to be given, or they gave it to somebody else. And then when they realized they had the wrong embryo, they stuck a random one in Daphna, thinking she'd never noticed. When the young mother finally gave birth 9 months later, the first thing she noticed was that her baby didn't look like anyone in her family. On both sides of the family tree, the couple's lineages are about as white as it gets. Yet their baby was born with jet black hair and a much darker complexion than anybody in their bloodlines for the past 500 years. But before we get into an argument about recessive genes, it's important to know that Alexander and Daphna got DNA testing done. The genetic tests revealed that the baby she carried for 9 months and then raised for the first few months of its life was not genetically related to either of them. In other words, this woman accidentally gave birth to the biological child of total strangers. She may have grown it in her body, but it wasn't related to her in the slightest. 7. Abandoning a baby. On the Birch Hill Free Church of Scotland, located on the small island of PEI in Canada, a body was found. It was a brisk Sunday afternoon when the caretaker of the church walked up the hill to turn on the heat. He was getting prepared for the church service later in the evening, but as he walked up the steps, he noticed there was something amiss. Somebody had left a baby on a bench outside the church. This wasn't a warm summer day. It was cold and snowing in Atlantic Canada. Somebody, most likely a young mother, wrapped a baby in some cloth and then just put it on the bench in the front of the church in the cold. The caretaker picked up the baby and got a hold of the police immediately. But here's where things get truly tragic and disturbing. This is not one of those cases that turned out happily with the baby being adopted by its rescuers. The infant had already passed on to the other side. And despite a police investigation that went on for over a month, whoever left the child at the church remains a mystery. Police have treated the case like a homicide investigation, yet they have made no progress towards an arrest. It's become a pretty strange local mystery for the people of the town. This is a very small place called Mount Albion, really in the middle of nowhere. The cops haven't identified any mother who recently gave birth but doesn't still have their baby. And it couldn't have possibly come from any other town because that would have been a very long and pointless journey to dump a baby. It was definitely someone in the town, someone who managed to hide a pregnancy and dispose of a baby in complete secrecy. 6. Free baby. A customer at a sandwich restaurant in New Jersey was given a newborn baby completely free of charge. It wasn't the restaurant that handed over the baby, but a young girl of just 14 who gave birth in the bathroom. She carried the baby out into the restaurant and handed it over to a couple. The incident was captured on surveillance footage from the El Patron restaurant, then uploaded online for the entire world to see. According to the restaurant owner, Frankie Aguilar, the young woman first walked up to the counter. She told the employees that she had found the infant girl in the bathroom. This proved to be a lie, but she was just trying to escape the embarrassment of the moment. She then handed the baby to Elise Scott, who was eating with her boyfriend Walter. As Elise was checking the baby's vitals to make sure it was okay, the teen mom slinked out the door and was gone. The baby ended up okay in the end. At last we heard it was put up for adoption. The teenage mom isn't facing any charges. And to be honest, everyone is just happy that she did the right thing by handing the baby off to another person. It was better than leaving it in the bathroom where it could have perished. What would you do if someone handed you a baby at a sandwich shop? Let us know in the comments, and don't forget to hit subscribe before the end of the video. 5. Short notice. A teenage girl went to the hospital because she had tremendous stomach pain. It was August, the air was warm, and the 17-year-old girl thought she was dying. It felt like her stomach was caving in on itself, and she had horrible cramps like she'd never experienced before. Her name is Alicia Ford, and she was 9 months pregnant but didn't know it. When she got to the hospital and the doctors looked at her, they realized she was having a baby. Then they told her she was pregnant, and she could hardly believe it. It took about 5 hours from this point to have the baby, meaning she only mentally experienced pregnancy from the time she got to the hospital until the time the baby came out. When she arrived, she was 43 weeks pregnant and 2.4 inches dilated. If you know anything about pregnancies, you'll know that 43 weeks is considered overdue. 42 weeks is overdue, and 43 is extreme. This means she carried her baby 3 weeks past the prime it was supposed to be birthed, and she still had no idea. We all know what you're thinking, and that's not the case. The teenager didn't gain any weight during her pregnancy. She was slim as a board, and her stomach was completely flat. And yet, when she gave birth, baby Harper was perfectly healthy. He weighed 7 pounds and 6.5 ounces. 4. The youngest mom in Britain. Get ready for the most shocking thing you've heard all day. An 11-year-old has become the youngest mom in recorded history to give birth in the United Kingdom. It happened in the summer of 2021, with the child getting pregnant at the young age of 10. We've all heard about teen moms, but this girl wasn't even a teenager yet. She was basically an infant herself. Dr. Carol Cooper told news sources that this is the youngest mother she has ever heard of in her professional career. She says the reason this child was able to give birth was probably because of hormones. She says that because children are getting heavier and heavier, girls are going into puberty earlier and earlier. This young girl hit puberty shockingly early. But that's not even the worst part. She then became sexually active, which is insane. The good news is that the girl and the baby are both okay. Social Services is now investigating the situation surrounding the pregnancy, and hopefully they don't find out anything even more shocking. 3. Baby in the dumpster. In New Mexico, Alexis Avila was arrested on charges of attempted murder and child abuse after she threw her baby in the trash. The evidence in the case was overwhelming. Alexis was caught on video literally throwing her newborn son into a dumpster like he was a half-finished plate of fries. Her excuse, at least what she told the police, was that she hadn't known she was pregnant until the day before the delivery. She had the baby in the bathroom and didn't know what to do. Luckily, the baby was found alive on Friday night after it had been in the dumpster for 6 whole hours. The acting chief of the Hobbs Police Department says he's never seen a case like this in all of his life. The New Mexican teen had driven around looking for the right dumpster to deposit her body in. She chose one in a dark neighborhood where nobody would hear its screams. This shows that the attempted murder was cold and calculated. Alexis is now looking at 15 years in prison for this terrible crime. 2. Baby in the shower. A young mom of 17 secretly gave birth at her house. She had what you might call a traditional shower birth, though she wasn't super thrilled about it. She had no idea what she was doing and just allowed nature to take its course. Then, once the baby was brought into the world, the girl walked 4 blocks to the hospital with a baby in her arms, still attached by its umbilical cord. She hadn't figured out how to disconnect the baby from her belly. Her name is Jochita Para, and she had wanted to call 911 but couldn't because her phone was disconnected. She could have gotten help from the neighbors, but she didn't want to wake anybody so early in the morning. She got dressed, then jogged to the hospital on foot. It was actually a pretty tragic case. Everything turned out all right for the teen and her baby in the end, but the whole mess of running to the hospital at 6 a.m. could have been avoided. She had kept her pregnancy secret from her parents because she was scared of her mom. She thought her mother would kick her out of the house, which would have left her homeless with a baby. But now that Zochita's done it all by herself, the mother has accepted the situation and welcomed the infant into the family. 1. Trapped in a shelter. A baby of just 15 months was trapped with her mother for 5 days inside a homeless shelter in New York City. When the baby was finally discovered, it was wildly dehydrated and her mother was dead. The mother passed on from an accidental drug overdose, and the baby was left there huddled next to her cold, dead body. The father of the baby is now trying to sue the city of New York and the Department of Homeless Services for $5 million. It was his daughter, Lyric LaBoy, who was found by workers at the East River Family Center. How it all happened is a little confusing. You see, Lyric and her young mother were living at an apartment-type complex inside the shelter in East Harlem. The apartment was private, yet the pair definitely should have been checked on. Nobody bothered looking into the apartment until they smelled a horrible odor leaking out of it. And that was when the baby was found. Lyric's mother had chosen to do drugs, the overdose was accidental, and so there was nobody to take care of the baby for almost a week. It's a miracle the child is still alive. What's the craziest thing you've ever heard of a young mom doing? Let us know any insane stories you have in the comments, and thanks for watching. Don't forget to hit subscribe and check back for the latest amazing videos from the channel. See you next time. Bye.